Mike Bohn here in Perth, Australia with Daniel Cormier, and the UFC 305 press conference just ended. Daniel, I had like all this different stuff I wanted to open up talking about, but then we just got out of that press conference and absolutely insane ending there.
You know, the crazy thing was, like, all week it did not seem like the bad blood was. We talked about this a little bit last night, right? We saw each other last night and talked about it was so bad in the build, but this week was pretty measured. But we did know there was still the press conference. And today, press conference delivered. It was all the same things that we expected, the insults, the anger, the emotion from Izzy. You know, it was, God, you just didn't know, right? Like, I asked Dricus about that, I said, man, you're saying Izzy did this and that, and he was like, I saw it on the internet, I believe it, I'm going with it. And it seemed like when he was doing that today, he touched the nerve, and it really did affect Adesanya. So, yeah, it was explosive, man. It was crazy.
I mean, Israel is a guy that always wears his emotions on his sleeve. Like, after he started shedding some tears there, he said it, like, I can cry and kick your ass at the same time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What does that say to you? Like, is this, yeah.
Have you seen that? I don't know if I've seen, Sean Strickland was pretty emotional when he was on. I think it's so crazy because I think Dricus, he frustrates you. I think he might frustrate these guys so much that they have these emotional responses to him, and it's crazy, you know. But it is kind of on brand for him because even his fighting style, it's frustrating for his opponents, and they can't figure him out. I think that's kind of what happened to Adesanya today, and he was very emotional. I mean, it was something. I don't know. I haven't seen that much.
I don't even know what to make of this fight at this point. I've flip-flopped on it like so many times. Like, you know, there's so many X factors too. Izzy taking this long layoff, like his longest break ever from combat sports. He seems to have fixed some things like physically, mentally, but then this happens today and you're like, what do you even read into this fight?
He's never done that, right? And that's always something you got to take from, you know, that's the beauty in this fight game, man. Like, we're all analyzing or overanalyzing everything, right? So even watching Izzy have that response, you're like, oh, my goodness, why is he so emotional? What does that mean? Like, what does that say about where he is in his life? What's the state of his mentality and everything? Or maybe he's just an emotional guy, and that just got brought out of him in the statements that he was combating with Dricus Du Plessis. But if you're Team Dricus, I'm pretty sure they're all celebrating. Like, man, we have now come face-to-face with this man 3-4 times, and in 2 of those instances, he's had real emotional responses in response to you, and you being in his face. So maybe they're under his skin a little bit.
I wonder right now, honestly, if, like, I know the trash talk is everyone's cup of tea is different, but, like, what he's doing to these guys, Sean Strickland now, is he maybe the best talker in the UFC right now? I mean, I haven't seen this kind of happen, and he tweets after the fact, he's like, why are all these guys crying at the press conferences, man? It's not that serious.
It's actually unbelievable that he, does he know that he's doing that is the question, or is he just being himself? And, again, it's frustrating. I think it's frustrating because when he was saying the things that he was saying, Adesanya would say, you don't know me. Like, you don't know my story, da-da-da. And he just didn't care. He just kept on piling on, and that would be frustrating to just about anybody. I'm telling you, it was a spectacle. It was something.
I mean, coming in for Izzy, like, I thought that if he wins this fight, the accomplishment, becoming a 3-time single division champion, only Randy Couture has done that.
Crazy? You know what's crazy about that? I said that to Dricus. I said, dude, he could be a 3-time undisputed champion, one weight class. Doesn't happen. I said, I think Jones has done it, and
it's just Randy Couture because Jones would have done it if your fight wasn't turned to the no contest.
That's what it was. Yep, Jones would have did it with mine, but it got turned to no contest. But so just Randy. He goes, but again, it's Du Plessis. Du Plessis goes, well, yes, it's a great accomplishment, but in order to do that, you've lost the belt multiple times, right? So it's like, even in that, he just digs a hole in you trying to give him his flowers, right? So it's it's crazy, man. I love this fight.
If you could take away, Dricus's thoughts on that, how impressive is that in your mind? You've been there, you've climbed the mountain, you've had to redo that stuff, multiple divisions and stuff. Like, how difficult and how big of an achievement would this be for Israel?
It's huge. It's huge. It's huge to win a belt back after losing it. Because I'm telling you, man, when you lose that belt, you feel like, oh, I know how hard it was to get there. Now I got to go through what I did the first time to get back there. It's a very daunting thing to think about, and it's hard to get done. That's why nobody's done it. right? That's why nobody's done it, because it's that difficult.
It's crazy, man. I mean, and I was going to lead off the interview with this, but this is an important date in your history, right? I'm sure you've been tagged in a bunch today. Like, this is the 4-year anniversary of your last fight today.
Oh, really?
You didn't know that?
No, I'm telling
I know we're on weird time zones and stuff like that.
Is it today or is it yesterday or is it tomorrow?
It's today, the 16th.
Yeah. I fought. Wow, 4 years ago already. Time goes fast, man. Time goes really fast, and I was just very lucky to have the career that I had.
It was an amazing one. Obviously, you've done such good stuff in the aftermath. I mean, could you be prouder of what you've done post-retirement and this has worked out? People put so much big ambitions on you. Like, this guy's going to be the next Michael Strahan and all these things. Like, do you feel like you're living up to that?
I think that everything's going really well. I feel like I've made some great new partnerships. I feel like my profile in media continues to raise and elevate. And I think that is what my intention was, and I think that is going in the right direction. It's hard, though. This media game, it's hard and it takes time, especially when you have those big goals, right? Because for all those things that people expected and said I was going to do, I want that too, right? And it's hard because you're constantly on the phone with people about this thing and that thing and this thing, and it's also like figuring out what you want to do opposed to doing everything. So yeah, it's just a lot, but it's awesome. It's been great.
Yeah. And I mean, the 4-year anniversary of your last fight is also the 4-year anniversary of Stipe's last win, and everyone's pointing that out too and being like, how are we still doing this title fight with Jones? I mean, I don't know. This has been talked about so much, but does that put it even crazier context to know that's the last time you won and this guy's the #1 contender for the next heavyweight title fight?
I think it's kind of crazy, but I always say this, and I told this to Ben Askren the other day. Him and I do a podcast. And I said, if there are two people that deserve the opportunity to say, we want to fight each other because we know what fighting each other would have meant in the prime of our careers, is those two, right? I know Stipe has not had the most glowing record in terms of wins or activity, but it has to matter when you have done that much. You got to have some goodwill when you fought everybody that they put in front of you, and you won against everybody that they put in front of you. So I think he deserves that opportunity, and it really shows that when a guy says, I'm not doing anything but what I know I deserve or getting, and ultimately it comes down to him getting that thing, that should be a win for a lot of fighters, right? Especially the ones that have a little bit of power or a little bit of influence, right? Former champions, guys that have been big names. It shows you that if you really believe in your heart that you deserve something and you're willing to stand on that no matter how long it takes, you can get it.
And you're seeing it almost with Kamaru Usman now too, right? Like, is he really going to get a title shot on a 3-fight losing streak against Belal Muhammad?
Well, I think Belal Muhammad is doing that, right? Having a champion that starts to speak your name, starts to kind of talk about what you did and not being impressed by what you did when what you did was so impressive. It's awesome. And then it makes you viable again. But Belal did it. And Bilal's a champion, and honestly, I don't hate it. That Belal Muhammad, man, is a nightmare since he got that belt. He ain't holding his tongue, and he shouldn't have to.
He's earned the right to say everything he's saying.
He's the man. He's going crazy right now. It's just funny. When he's talking about Kamaru's, he said that him and Kobe did cardio kickboxing or some shit like that, and he said, your podcast is this, and your part in the movie sucked too. It was like, oh my God, this guy's a nightmare. He goes to everybody. Belal Muhammad, I never thought that. Never thought that.
Speaking of people who are the man, Islam Makhachev, I don't think I've been higher on many people in the sport. I mean, I think I was the one that almost kicked off this insane Dana White pound for pound, being on Jon Jones. Because I asked him after Islam beat Dustin, I was like, if he's not #1 pound for pound, what would he have to do to be #1? And Dana didn't answer the question. He just went on a tirade, talking about Jon. But to me, he's #1 pound for pound, I think, in the world. They're talking about maybe an interim title, though. Mateus Gamrot's pitching that at Media Day, saying he wants to do Armin. You're against this, right? Islam's not going to be out long enough that they need to do an interim title.
You see, sometimes an interim championship is made out of necessity. But I think that would be one of those cases. But, I mean, he fought in Abu Dhabi last year. He fought in Perth, or was it Perth?
Yeah, it was Perth last February.
Last year. And then he fought in April of this year.
June.
Or June.
Yeah, even more recent.
3 times in 12 months. So I don't know why there would need to be one, but if that's in the direction that they're going, there's a reason. I don't think that it needs to happen, but I don't know. There got to be a reason. There might not be people to fight come December, right?
So speaking of that, I guess we can close on that. I mean, what's your gut on Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler? Like Dana's saying, he even doubled down after Conor posted that thing, like saying, I want to fight in December. He did an interview, I think, with Aaron Bronstetter, and he's like, I know he's saying he wants to fight, but like I still don't think it's going to happen in 2024. So like I don't even know what to make of this at this point.
Yeah, well, I think it's hard, right, when you have a guy that has that much influence, and right, as a promoter, that you put a card and Conor McGregor's on it. You don't need a belt. You can just say Conor McGregor's fighting, and it's going to sell a bunch, and it's going to sell out arenas. Hell, the last one was $20 million at the gate, right? That's hard for a promoter to go, I'm going to put that to the side, right? So while Michael Chandler's like, hey, the game moved on without you, if he really is healthy, you're like, man, I would really lean towards booking that fight. But I was very certain he wasn't fighting after he spoke at the Contender Series. But then he walked yesterday, today, he goes, he really wants to fight, so I don't know what to do. So that to me tells me, well, there's a chance that he'll give him that fight date if Conor really is ready to fight. So I wouldn't write it off. Ben Askren was celebrating that because Ben was like, he's not fighting, and then Ben predicted this in like February, so he wants to prove that he was right. But I'm telling you that last response where he goes, he really wants to fight, so I don't know, tells me that if everything comes together, he will fight, or at least he'll have that opportunity to fight.
Yeah, I'm just curious what I guess the specific holdup is. I mean, do they want to hold him till 25 because it's better for the business or their numbers? Like, there's so many X factors that go into this stuff.
I just think that Conor has to fight in Vegas. You don't let him fight anywhere else, right? So it's like when you look at your calendar, like when is Vegas? Conor knows that too. That's why he's saying December, because every year at the end of the year there's a December card in Vegas. So he's like, that one works because he understands that if not, usually it's like December Vegas and not again until like March. So he's like, I don't know if I want to wait all the way to March, So I think he's just looking at the calendar going, this is the time that I know I'm available and I could fight there, and I know that it's in Vegas.
And just last thing, back to this fight. Last time they were here, it was an electric crowd for Islam and Volk. Today they were very pro Izzy, which was a little surprising. Yeah, they loved him.
It wasn't like that.
Yeah. Just what do you think this fight's going to be like on Sunday morning between these two? There's so much tension. I think the hype is hitting its apex now.
I think, honestly, with Adesanya being as emotional and people seeing him let his guard down like that, I think it's only going to sway him more in his direction. Because you got to remember who Adesanya was for a long time. People could have been like, this cocky son of a gun and da-da-da. I think that he showed them his true human side. And I think that's going to sway him. I asked Dricus that. I was like, do you think the crowd's going to be in your... He goes, I'm not expecting that because it's never happened, and I don't care. He goes, there are a lot of South Africans flying over here to watch me fight. But seeing them cheer Izzy in the way that they did, it feels good for the guy, right? Because Sean Strickland came over here last time and turned Sydney into Vegas, right? Or some country and place in the United States. So it was it's good to see him get that love in the country that he resides.
It's going to be a great event. Obviously, looking forward to hearing you on the call with Dominic Cruz and John Anik. Appreciate the time, man, as always. You're the man. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you, bro.